How's it going, everybody? JT here on behalf of the Ethfinance Daily General Discussion from our Ethereum. Big thanks once again to the EV Mavericks here on Discord for hosting yet another happy hour for this day. April 11, 2025. This is episode 107 with my good friend Everdred from the Ether Guild. Say hello to the world, my friend.
What's up, JT? Appreciate you having me on here. Yeah, I've got nothing but kind words for this guy, JT here. You're a good man.
You're a good man too, man. It's always fun to come across and meet you in person. We've met each other a few times, a couple of times at Eat Denver for sure. This last year, you got a bit of the barbecue, and I was like, "Yeah, I want to see if we can get Everdred on the Doots podcast sometime." And you're here. So for those of you who don't know Everdred, he's been a long timer in the space, but just to kind of kick this off. What is your origin story of the name Everdred?
That's a great question. Yeah, actually, it's from a Super Nintendo game called Earthbound. It's just a random character, but I'm a big gamer, so I ran with an obscure SNES game as my pseudo-anon. But yeah, you're the first person to ask, actually.
Yeah, well, it's just caught my attention. So Earthbound, that's a deep cut. That's not a super popular game. What struck you from that? Is it the difficulty of it?
No, it's not super difficult, but it was this kind of like early. It's a Japanese RPG set in America, and it had a very unique style at a time where all RPGs were basically like fantasy fighting dragons. This one was basically written as like a story about some kids that are tasked with saving the world. And so it's just a super like very heartfelt game. A ton of love went into that, and I just enjoyed it a lot when I was a kid. So figured I'd run with it.
Well, the last question I have on that is, do you have the Japanese release new in box with plastic?
Yeah, of course. No, I have the not the original Japanese release, but they released there was a prequel to this game that came out only in Japan. If the Earthbound that came out in America had like a really bad marketing pitch, that their slogan was "This game stinks." Which did not, because they had like some scratch and sniff cards in the strategy guide, and it did not. It basically flopped in America. And so anyway, I do have like the re-release that they put out in Japanese on Game Boy Advance.
That's really
deep
neat.
Cut.
Yeah, that is a deep cut. Yeah, and I do recall you being quite the gamer. Well, I don't want to go into that any further, other than to say that it's not even a debate. Super Metroid is the greatest game of all time.
Won't debate you. It is a good game. I don't agree, but I won't debate.
So then, fast forward from there. So what was your, like, in a previous life to working in crypto, what was your expertise? What did you specialize in?
Yeah. So I went to school for software engineering. I do that. I worked at a couple Web2 companies, and then in 2017 found crypto, watched a ton of Andreas Antonopoulos videos, found Bitcoin, and then found Ethereum from there. Did you watch a lot of Andreas?
Yeah, I did, but he was like, just when he said anybody could remember 24 words, you should never write them down. I'm like, okay, hold on, homie. Like, I still have to look up my own phone number sometimes, you know. He was very inspiring. It was kind of like Andreas Antonopoulos figured out a way to talk in front of people and make it super digestible and just common sense. You almost felt like a fool not investing after you listened to him, right?
His early talks, he'd leave basically a private queue with some Bitcoin on every chair.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
Everyone that came to talk walked away with actual Bitcoin, like more than one Bitcoin, right? At the day, it was like 10 cents. So he was giving like $1 in a private key. But nonetheless, yeah, if you If you went to one of his talks, you could have $1 million from just being there right now.
This is
That's wild.
if you're listening in, this is Logri the Bard. He's our technical co-host for the EV Maverick show. I'm glad you could join us on stage, man. So, what was then your software developer? You're thinking about all those things in the computer world. What was your aha moment besides Andreas Antonopoulos? I guess starting with Ethereum. When was that? What was your most galvanizing moment? Like, I'm here to stay. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah, it was a gradual process. Like, I think I would say I had heard about Bitcoin way back in the day. I had a friend who was all about it from like 2015 or 14 on, and I kind of ignored it. I don't come from a financial background, and so I pretty much brushed it off. When I learned about Bitcoin and then very quickly after that Ethereum, I saw the kind of like non-financial use case, and it like struck it resonated with my values. I think it's this like more optimistic idealist vision for the internet where you don't have a single billionaire in charge of an entire social media, and there's this potential alternative world where you could leverage decentralization to enable new types of software to exist. And so I think it was just like it resonated pretty deep, and I spiraled I was still in my Web 2 job for a good maybe year or so after I found Ethereum, and I was just like that annoying crypto guy at the office, like giving talks about the world computer.
What's the old joke? Like, if you want to find out if somebody's in crypto or CrossFit, don't worry, they'll tell you.
Yeah, exactly. That was me. Yeah, so I was like doing that, and eventually ended up getting a job at Consensus. I was working on their developer tool called Truffle.
Yeah.
Which has since been deprecated in favor of kind of newer tools. Hardhat and Foundry are kind of like the similar developer tools, but I've been working mainly building developer tools since in the Web3 space.
Excellent. And inspiration for Ether Guild. Let's go ahead and get right into it. When did you create Ether Guild? What was the inspiration behind this?
Yeah, so actually this was an initiative kicked off by Ryan Sean Adams from Bankless. He had this idea for essentially a protocol guild focused on ETH, the money. And so for those of you that aren't familiar, a protocol guild is a public goods funding mechanism that allows any protocol or organization or team to point, maybe 1% of their protocol revenue at this multi-signature wallet, and that automatically divvies it up and pays protocol core developers to continue working on the protocol. And so we've had this like big emphasis on funding and supporting the computer, and kind of along the way we've neglected and generally forgotten about like ETH, the asset, in the same way. So, in this blog post that you're pulling up, I kind of make the pitch for, there's this market gap that exists where we have this like pretty big backer of the Ethereum Foundation tag teamed with Protocol Guild, helping to support, research development, funding core developers. But there's really just been this kind of this like neglecting of the money that secures the world computer. I think it's important to remember that the money secures the computer gives value to the money. This is kind of you may have seen the yin yang before. These are two parts that are symbiotically linked, and we really can't just completely neglect half of the equation. And so the goal with Ether Guild is to have this like platform to fund initiatives that educate people about ETH. And that's kind of where it came from.
Yeah, we got to keep the moneyness there, right? That's a big part of like you said, just this what makes ETH special. You need to have moneyness of the asset that's driving everything else. Okay, so I'm looking at a chart here where it shows the
I can chat through that chart. I mean, this is kind of like where we see ourselves. And so Ether Guild let's start at the top left. on the top axis, we've got Ethereum, the computer. There's this community initiative protocol guild that is funded by all of these different smaller organizations. And that goes towards funding core developers. At the top right, on kind of like the institutional side, we have the Ethereum Foundation that's leading research and development, kind of leadership direction of Ethereum, the computer. And then at the bottom right, we've got Etherealize, kind of a new, it is a for-profit company, but it's focused on making the institutional pitch for ETH, the money. That's not to say that they don't support the computer. I think a lot of the pitch for ETH, the asset, is really just like helping people understand what does Ethereum, the computer, do. I think if you were to poll a random market participant and ask like, what is Ethereum, they're just going to say like, oh, that's that, the one underneath Bitcoin. But most people that aren't paying too close attention might not even understand that Ethereum is a computer. And so Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, I might put, actually, if I redo this chart, I might put them more on the kind of community side. They are a nonprofit that is focused on adoption, typically enterprise adoption of Ethereum, the computer. And they kind of do sit in between, like supporting both the computer and the money. But that finally brings us to the bottom left, where there was kind of previously this gap that was filled in with these individual initiatives from Bankless, the Daily Gwei, Grow the Pie. Etherealize is also kind of doing some more nonprofit side work or plans to. And so this Ether Guild initiative is co-launched with everyone in that group, where Bankless helped fund kind of the initial organizational setup. Sassel's been like a huge part of advocating for Ether Guild and lending his community to this initiative. And then Grow the Pie team has been doing a lot of the initial website development that we'll get into in a little bit. So it's been kind of a cool community project. I'm definitely very humbled to be working with such cool people in our space.
And who runs Ether Guild? Are you at the top of that organization?
Yeah, at the moment, I'm definitely like been kind of leading the day-to-day, like helping volunteers get involved, pulling people in to help out. I think in terms of like the historic project that's been built, Grow the Pie has been doing a lot of the development side. I've been doing a lot of the community building. I wrote up a couple blog posts about it, trying to kind of rally the communities around this idea that ETH is money, and kind of like build narratives, and just really like direct a lot of, I think, as we've launched Ether Guild, I've seen a lot of really positive feedback about it. A lot of people saying like, okay, we've been like, this is the sort of initiative that we need at this time. Etherealize is kind of approaching the problem from the for-profit side. Ether Guild is approaching this market gap from the nonprofit side. So it's a 501c3 nonprofit based out of the US. We're applying for that status because we believe that it kind of just gives it lends to more trust from the community a lot more easy. So I think I kind of like this dual pronged approach where Etherealize is a lot more focused on like institutional pitch for ETH, and we can kind of hopefully help out on the community nonprofit side.
Excellent.
Well,
go ahead, Logri.
Lots to unpack there. One, I kind of agree with you that you get like one speech at where like Justin Drake says like, and here's the stats on ETH is money, and that would be like the only thing that would be the only thing on that topic for like a whole year, right?
Yep.
It used to, like back in the 2017 when Bankless was getting started, they talked a lot more about the moneyness of things, like the difference between store of value and reserve currency and medium of exchange, and like what made something a good money and the properties of Ethereum and why it was suitable as a money. We had things like the triple point assets meme come out of that. And since then, we've seen several other ETH is money kind of ultrasound money, for example, that kind of was there and then was heavily hyped. The triple halvening, for example, is another money.
Yep.
And those have kind of like, I don't know if we're just changing our narrative too often, or if it basically fell in our face because now we're inflationary after saying that we were going to be, ultrasound. I don't know if it's just that no one bothers to look at anything other than the highest market cap, and we've lost our chance to go and get that. And so, funds are just dumping in the highest market cap without doing any research into Ethereum at all, right? It was never a winnable fight. You said you've seen a few good memes. What is your favorite meme currently for ETH as money that you think that we should rally around? Because we've gone through a few of these, and I'm not sure what the prevailing or what the best one to lead with right now is.
That's a great question. JT, if you could pull up the etherguild.xyz site and then click on the read more button, I'll kind of show you what I'm going off of as I'm talking. I see. Oh, wait. So
Etherguild.
Are you sharing? I see your screen. I see two of your screens on Discord. Is that expected? I see
hold on one second.
a general screen, and then I also see your separate screen.
Yeah, so I have the OBS screen. I'm
Okay.
I'm streaming
you're good.
the
Just
second
making sure
one,
this is expected.
and then I'm going to go to this look here. Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Yes. So if you click the logo at the top left, the Etherguild logo. So we talked a little bit about the introducing Etherguild. Just click the read now and scroll to the bottom. One of the early blog posts I put out was this case for ETH as money. And it's sort of a brief history of crypto memes. It hits on a couple of the ones. If you pause right here, there's a list. I think we've had a lot of memes in the Ethereum space in the past. Some of them have had more success than others. Ethereum is a world computer. It's a trust machine. It's a global permissionless computer capable of making strong commitments and empowering radical markets. On the other side, ETH is ether. It's gas. It's a usable commodity like oil. It's a triple point asset. It's programmable ultrasound money. And so all of these different memes over time have contributed to the conversation, I think helped to build narratives. One thing that I've had a lot of conversations with people, and I will pose the same question to you both and the listeners. I would challenge you to try to think of a meme that encapsulates something that has both the monetary properties of like a dollar bill, while also has the compute properties of a computer. So if you were to place a dollar bill on your computer, wrap tape around it, pretend this is one thing, and try to imagine a symbol, like a 2 to 3 words, simple phrase that would encapsulate really both of these things. The realization that I've come to, and I think that many people have come to, especially more recently, is that there is no corollary to this combination of two very different things. Like a computer is
like light is both a wave and a particle, right? And we're like, we've never seen something like this before. It's a new type of thing, right? And then physicists spent the next 80 years reinventing science around that fact. So we've done that with something in the monetary space, and now economists are going to be spending the next 80 years trying to wrap their heads around that fact.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good way to think of it. I think it is this thing where I don't believe there is a single word or 1 to 3 words that will be a metaphor that exists already in the existing world that I can be like, oh, it's just like blank. So I think in the meantime, as we are educating people about Ethereum and helping people understand Ethereum and ETH, I think it's in our best interest to have the conversation about these things separately. And I think it is okay to have a meme about the computer and a meme about the money. I believe the thing that has gained the most traction over time is that Ethereum is the world computer, ETH is money. And we've had variations over this ETH is money. Like you said, ultrasound money, it's a triple point asset. I think the through line here with the money meme, and the reason why I believe it's just seen a lot more traction recently, is that it is more understandable to non-crypto native people. If I tell you that Bitcoin is digital gold and Ether is this thing that's more like oil, that metaphor doesn't strike people. I as a consumer have no need to just buy crude raw oil. I can understand that it's useful, and I can buy purchase the byproducts of that thing. But I think this idea of like ETH is money is also pretty flexible, right? Like you can say ETH is money, ETH is ultrasound money, ETH is programmable money. Like it is inherently flexible. It's ICO money, DeFi money, internet native money, AI like money. And so I think that's sort of like the meme that we're pushing and that we think is the easiest for non-crypto and crypto people to better understand. I also think it's like kind of in our best interest to help people realize that Bitcoin isn't the only thing that is attempting to have sort of like monetary value aside. Like I think we would be shooting ourselves in the foot if we only pitch Ethereum or sorry, ETH as this like this tech stock that has some utility. I think that's like a very like minimalist or like we're kind of diminishing the value of ETH. I think ETH has the potential, like on the one hand, when you've got Bitcoin, which is like effectively a pet rock with an existential security flaw built into it. On the other end of it, it's like we have this actually well thought out monetary policy for this asset that has utility and that it has like adoption. And so I think we're better having the conversation, helping people understand sort of like Bitcoin versus ETH and putting them in kind of a similar bucket than we are trying to talk about like digital oil or anything like that.
Well, you didn't really give me a good meme to rally around, which was the original
ETH is
question.
money.
You get okay.
ETH is money.
But can I spend it? And the answer is like Jimmy John's doesn't take it. So ETH isn't a very good money in that sense, right? So like money means different things, and then you start to have a difficult conversation people aren't prepared for why I can't, spend ETH as money in any particular country, right? You're like, well, it's incredibly neutral money. It's kind of like a Bancor system. People have never heard of that. Or you get into, well, okay, but BTC is already the digital money that people are shooting for. And like, for example, let's compare silver to gold, right? The ratio at an atomic level of silver to gold is nowhere near the price delta of silver to gold. The ratio of silver to gold on price is something like 100-1 right now. And the ratio of silver to gold in the earth at an elemental level is like 5-1 or something, right? There's clearly a huge monetary premium in the valuation of gold compared to like the universal physics of it, right?
Yeah.
And I think there would similarly be a huge monetary premium on Ethereum if it could establish it as the gold, the digital gold equivalent. But unfortunately, we have this placeholder at the moment, which is kind of an existential threat to the entire ecosystem because it doesn't have that a sustainable security budget and seems to want to ossify into a critically bad state. And it's kind of doing a disservice to all humanity because we do need a digital money, right? And it's placeholding that, but it's not placeholding that in a way that it actually transacts, right? People buy it as a store of value in the same way they buy a gold, but they don't buy it to spend it. So they're not trying to treat it like cash, spendable money, like a currency. They're trying to treat it as a store of value. That's the way we treat gold, and that's how that meme came about, right? We need, like, for Ethereum to have that monetary premium attached, we can't just be silver, or else we'll be like this 100-1 ratio, which, by the way, would be like Bitcoin to Ether ratio 0.01, which we're heading towards. We're almost there, guys. We almost got the digital silver meme going. All right, we're almost at that ratio. We really,
I follow it.
We really need a lot more. We really need a much better case for people to hold it. Like, in order for us to supplant that, you either need to attack the Bitcoin network successfully, in which case you crash the entire space, right? Like, we're all going down. You want to see $10 ETH again. That's how we get that, right? Or we need to have something that's significantly like 10x better. And so what do people care about in the financial world? They kind of care about yield, right? So if you could somehow roll the yield-bearing gold, yield-bearing digital gold, I don't know, something along those lines, right?
Logri,
we got to get that.
I'm going to push back on 2 points. The first one is, if the Bitcoin network falls, we're not going to fall. We'll be the flight of capital.
The price will.
It might.
No, the price forever. the price of everything, because they'll be like, oh God, even Bitcoin wasn't.
No.
What like I don't trust anything.
Bitcoin.
It will.
Bitcoin would fail. Bitcoin will fail for entirely different reasons, and Ethereum does not run on Bitcoin. Ethereum is the
the network will chug all it wrong, but the price will crater.
I don't know.
We will go down on that day that Bitcoin crashes. The Ether ratio will go negative.
I think
we will crash harder than Bitcoin in price, despite the fact.
You're totally probably right for the short term. I think my hope, and probably JT's hope, and I'm sure your hope as well, Logri, is that like, should that day ever come, it would be a reckoning for all of crypto, and it would require people to better understand what Ethereum is.
Bingo.
If Ethereum were to be able to rebound. Like, that is a necessary step.
Sure. So when we get in front of Congress and the ETFs and BlackRock and Bitwise are up there having a testimony on how all the Americans that own the Bitcoin ETF just got owned because the Bitcoin network failed. The next question that's going to be on the thing is, what about all the other ETFs? Should we unwind those, make those illegal as well? Right? Because we're obviously going to be done with the Bitcoin one. They're going to have to start explaining to a bunch of 80-year-old senators the difference between blockchain and security budget. And I don't know that's going to go very well. I just, given what I have seen of the Senate, right? I don't think that's going to suddenly alleviate all the American fears. It's going to be all over the news, and it's going to be bashing on blockchain. And it's going to be everyone already wanted to hate crypto. And this is going to validate what they already wanted to believe. It's confirmation bias, no matter how wrong it is. They're going to go, I knew crypto was a scam all the time. It's not even secure now, right?
I want to hear JT's reaction, and then I have another response to this.
The second pushback that I didn't get a chance to address is Jimmy John's doesn't accept ETH asset just yet, but I guarantee you they'll accept a U.S. stable coin before they'll accept Bitcoin. And once you supplant the entire monetary system with a very large percentage of stable coin activity that is not related to Bitcoin's protocol, I think that's your escape hatch. It's like people are going to be using stable coins because banks are now going to be able to start dealing in this stuff. This is where I have no doubt that
stablecoins are going to $1 trillion in market cap, right? We're around like 250 billion. I think that with the coming legislation, regulatory clarity, with what the SEC is telling banks they're now allowed to interact with these things, the fact that neobanks like Robinhood already allow stablecoin deposits, and banks are just like, this is unfair. Why can't we allow it as well? I think we're going to quickly get to a point where I'm going to have a USDC, or if I'm JPMC is going to launch their own stablecoin, and they'll have a JPMC deposit address for their stablecoin on Chase website, right? We'll get to that, no doubt. And I don't doubt that I'm going to get a credit card integration. So I'm going to be able to spend my USDC from a crypto credit card that I repay monthly from my private wallet. So I will just go to their website and repay like I would repay a credit card from a bank. I'll just repay it from my private wallet, sign a transaction, that'll be that. I have no doubt we're going to get there. But the argument against ETH as money goes, well, I'm just going to hold stable coins and I'm going to use 20 cents of ETH a month in gas. Why do I need to buy ETH the asset? It's not the money then. USDC is the money. USD is the money.
I think this might... Okay. Yeah, I think this might be a great segue to the ETH is Money website, which was the first major initiative of the Ether Guild. And so huge shout out to the Grow the Pi team. They built this version of the website. And I believe actually Tobias is going to be here on Doots next week. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's on the calendar for sure.
Sweet. Yes. So he's going to be able to continue on and talk about some of this data. But
I'm sorry, is his last name Schreier? Did I say that?
Schreier, I believe.
Okay, I just make sure I got the right Tobias. I know so many of them.
Yes, for sure. So the ETH is Money website is like our first initiative to help kind of make this claim and to differentiate, as you mentioned, Logri, ETH might be good at certain aspects of money, but it is not adopted for other aspects. Medium of exchange when it comes to buying coffee is not likely the adopted use of that we are targeting. If every single time I buy coffee with a stable coin, I am exchanging USDC as a medium of exchange, and under the hood, ETH is being used as money as a medium of exchange to pay transaction fees, it is still involved in that transaction. To your point, it's a much smaller portion of the fee, but the importance of ETH being the asset that secures the entire this entire new like internet native economy, personally believe makes it an easy pitch for storing value.
When you use a credit card, you pay a fee to Visa. You pay your 75 cents. If Visa was to take that 75 cents and buy back Visa, would Visa be a money? Would Visa stock be?
Sure, I see what you're saying. So
when we add account abstraction and I'm able to pay just with USDC, and the account abstraction provider takes my 3 cents and they use it to buy back ETH, that's not what makes ETH money any more than what makes Visa money. Like Visa stock has money. So in order for ETH to be money, it needs to be something that people want to store for its own sake as a store of value, right? That's the market we're targeting. And the reason to do that is because you have a belief it's going to hold or appreciate in value, just like any stock. And there's only usually one currency people have the most faith in, and historically right now that's USD. But if you want to go with a store of value asset right now, it's probably gold, and second that would be Bitcoin. So if we want to supplant that, we need to have a better narrative than Bitcoin, something that's transmissible that we can use to take down Bitcoin. The security narrative on attack is great. Pro ETH narrative, I think, it's Bitcoin, but it has better yield, right? It has native yield. And the anti-USDC thing is saying, like, if you want to be more trusted, it's the credibly neutral token on Ethereum, right? On everything like that you're going to be processing. Everything else that you would use on the Ethereum network has a trust limit. You want to take USDC? Well, if the Treasury defaults on its debt, as Trump has floated to do, then you're fucked, right? Your USDC just suddenly is not redeemable for $1. Maybe it'll be redeemable for 77 cents or something, right? And that was trust that you took by holding USD. Ethereum will never rug you in the way the Treasury might. It can't.
Yeah, and I mean, if I could summarize what I'm hearing here is that like I've typically, maybe this is just the background I come from as like a technical person who has spent time helping to educate people that are less involved in this particular niche of the internet. It requires this like multi-pronged educational initiative where yes, I agree. Like, I don't think we need to live and die on the hill of like ETH is only money if I can spend it at McDonald's. I think you're totally right. Like, the thing that Bitcoin has done so well is focusing entirely on the store of value. I think we can kind of one up that, as you say, talk about it has native yield. It is this underlying medium of exchange that is used across all of these different, we're calling them ETH economies. If you scroll up on the ETH is Money site, we can kind of go very quickly over just the different like perspectives that you can take of ETH being money. I think it's definitely multi-pronged. I didn't mean to cut you off, Logri, but I hope this is like a segue. But we can, I think like the demand for ETH to be used as money by these layer twos has like gone up and to the right since layer twos have existed. The next chart here, or the next graph that we have, is just about ETH being stored as held as a store of value. I think we can do a lot of work to add more to this chart. But I think, we need to be like talking about what are the protocols that are actually holding ETH. These layer twos that have to spend ETH as gas to secure their layer two, they have to hold ETH and like can benefit from it being a store of value over time. And then we can talk a little bit about like the issuance as algorithmic to help people understand this idea of like minimum viable issuance. A lot of these things are just like, to us in our little bubble, like very commonplace conversation. But I think if you talk to anyone outside of crypto, they'll just like most of this won't be, or it'll just be entirely foreign to them.
It's entirely like they don't even have the paradigm scaffolding to have some of these conversations. It's actually like just like you, I've been that annoying person that don't worry, they'll let you know they're in crypto, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's my birthday lunch at lunch. Guess what? Since it's my topic of choice, we're going to talk about Ethereum, buddies, right? Everyone has to deal with me just ranting about like abstract monetary concepts for the next hour at my birthday lunch, right? Like, it's So I've had this conversation with a lot more normies, and I've had this conversation with a lot of tech folks, being in the engineering org. And it's a difficult conversation to have. And I've had this conversation with, people on the finance side through my connection to Accelerate, and it's a difficult conversation to have. Generally, even people in finance you would think would have a background in thinking about money, they aren't used to having to answer things they take for granted about the moneyness of things. They're not even prepared for those conversations. They're just, everything's always been denominated in USD their entire life. And they'll say something, pithy like, well, it's just, the USD is backed by the full force of the U.S. military. Okay, let's talk about how. Let's talk about if they just were to print 100 trillion of it. What's the backing now, right? Like,
we shoot our way out of that.
Yeah, you're just going to go and blow up the world, and that's going to make your USD valuable. You didn't lose value. Let's talk about redeemable. How you redeem it for goods. Isn't the purchasing power of the dollar what you really mean by defended? How is that defended by a tank blowing up a factory in some other nation? They're just not prepared for those conversations at all. And I need something I can transmit in not 3 words, but I need something that I can transmit in like the 5-minute rants that people give me before their eyes glaze over and they're like, "What the fuck is this guy talking about?" Right?
Yeah.
And it's so multifaceted, and I get so many interruptions along the way because I do invoke curiosity when people are talking to me. And so they'll interrupt me and start digging on one of these things, and I can't even finish one of the rabbit holes on that in the 5 minutes, right? And so it's a very difficult conversation to have. And so I need repeated interactions with people before I can start to really get the message. And that's a hard sell. That's a really hard job. And I don't think we can win that battle at to grandma who can barely use a computer, right? I don't think we're going to get that adoption there. So we have this whole thing. We need a cleaner polish on an easily transmissible message, and we need something that is clearly right. And the thing that I've fallen back to is yield, right? Why hold Bitcoin? You can hold ETH and get yield. If you're getting yield on Bitcoin, you're getting it through someone else taking like leverage on it, right?
I'll throw out my kind of elevator pitch that I'm giving to non-crypto natives. I would describe within the ETH is money meme. I would argue ETH is money for the Ethereum economy, which is the largest and most widely adopted internet native economy. Like traditional money, ETH can be lent, borrowed, traded, invested, spent, and held while earning interest or yield. Unlike traditional money and Bitcoin, you can do these things without relying on any custodians or intermediaries. And you can really make the argument that while Bitcoin originally set out to be a peer-to-peer electronic cash, so far, ETH has actually achieved that through transaction fees actually providing utility and layer 2s that are using ETH as money to pay for their economic security. I do agree, right? Like it's still this multi-pronged conversation that has to happen. If anyone has a meme that combines the properties of both a virtual computer and a piece of money, a piece of like financial instrument, I'm all ears to hearing a potential new meme. I think
I got one. I got it.
Go ahead.
I got it. I just looked it up on the old Google, so nobody's taken it yet. I don't know if it includes computer, but it certainly includes economy. ETHconomy.
Hit it.
ETHconomy. That's what ETH is. It's an entire economy, not just money. Money's one part of it.
I like this.
Today,
yeah, I think,
just what I did today, I owed taxes. I got my tax bill from last year. I had some money, and it was our ETH being lent out on something called flat money. I took the yield off of that to pay last year's tax bill on ETH that was supplanted into, it's like all these different dots were connected, and it's totally outside traditional banking system. I was able to convert to USDC and then rail it over to the exchange. Like the whole economy is it just sits in the, in Web3 economy.
Yeah. I think that's really the pitch here, right? Like, I think, again, as crypto natives, we understand that there's this whole alternative financial system that exists where you can do all of the banking things that you could do in TradFi, but you can do it without a custodian. You can do it in a way that's crypto economically secured. You're not having to trust the next 3 hours capital. with your money. I think if we can better articulate that there's this whole hidden universe happening online, this whole internet native economy, I think money is just like the obvious, like pitch and articulate this thing that's already happening that we all know about, but that the crypto adjacent or people that aren't as into crypto just have no idea that this is even happening
It's
over
just
here.
So the most effective pill that I've given people isn't to try and pill them on ETH, at least to start. I
Yeah.
hope that as they go down the rabbit hole, they'll eventually have those conversations. Because as I said, I can't transmit that in a conversation. But I can tell people, look, I've been making 10 to 15% on cash for years, and you're making 4%.
Yeah.
Like, and the bank, if you have money in a savings account, the bank is giving you 0.5%, and they're making. You are being ripped off. You are a sucker if you're not using, the blockchain.
Well, there's a certain amount of risk, though, Lowgreen.
Okay,
not everyone.
That's not what I. That's not what I want
Not
to give
every
people
one
to
of those
red pill them,
plays was
sir.
100% backed by, I mean,
Yeah.
we've
I
all
mean,
been victims of like things that have imploded too. So
Sure,
For
so
sure.
have I. I have lost money in DeFi. I've also made substantially more than I've lost, and I've got that yield that's much better than T-bills even after the losses.
right on.
So there is a way to do this safely, but the place I'm starting with is, I'm getting them by the greed, and I hope that greed is enough to motivate them to start to go down the rabbit hole. And as they start to go down the rabbit hole, they're going to have these multi-pronged conversations that start to make the whole thing coalesce in their mind. But I don't know how to transmit that in a single conversation. So what I do if I'm trying to hook someone on ETH's money, is I start with, you barely have to buy any ETH. Go buy like $2 of ETH, and then go put half your life savings in stable coins and start making a lot more money on it and live a better life. And stop letting the bank take advantage of you. Stop letting TradFi rip you off. Do you want to be on a system like Robinhood where they can turn off the buy button? Do you want to be on a system like where they shut down for bank holidays? Do you want us to be in a system where if you send money overseas, there's a foreign transaction fee and they rip you off there? Do you want to go through a system where remittance across nations is going to take you 2 weeks and take like 5% of your money? We just do things better.
This is
so
exactly.
Come on over.
This is exactly what I went through today. So I parked ETH and converted it to Rocket Pool ETH. I parked it in flat money. Months and months and months go by. I'm like, oh man, I guess I could just take some of this yield. I go to the flat money. I withdrew the whatever flat coin into RETH, converted the RETH to USDC, sent the USDC to a different wallet, sent that over to the exchange, and it was like, I didn't have to call a broker. I didn't have to call a bank. I didn't have to go through any other third party, on a phone or anything like that. Like, it was just,
there's no question that was going to work
frictionless.
whether it was a weekend or not.
It was
there's no
exactly
question it was
24/7
banking hours, and they
Cheap.
didn't care where in the world you were, and the amount of fees you used was for all
pennies,
that.
because a lot of it was on base.
There's currently some technical aptitude for that. I've heard cases that we're going to use AI in order to kind of give a more Google-style experience to these things. I'll believe it when I see it. It's I have a PhD in AI and I don't trust it, so that tells you something.
Hey,
but
Logri, real quick, because Everdred's got a hard stop in about 5 minutes. Okay, so what do we need? First of all, I want to do this thing here where I donate in Mint. So I'm gonna.
Let's do the donate on the EtherGuild .xyz site.
Okay,
that'll be the if you go back.
There we go. Okay.
Actually, no, just go to the actual EtherGuild. This is the blog, but if you just go to etherguild.xyz, there's a donate button. We've got, I think it's like 5 or 6 days left on the current Gitcoin round. So, I mean, honestly, if you can throw $1 at this, it would be hugely appreciated. I think
I'm doing it.
This has been an initiative that is a labor of love for everyone involved. Huge shout out to Bankless again. Huge shout out to the Daily Gwei, Grow the Pie, and we've been. I mean, it's just like this has been my nights and weekends thing for months now, and anyone that feels like throwing $1, it's like hugely appreciated. It'll increase the total number of contributors, and the Gitcoin matching can kind of do its magic. But yeah, it would be hugely appreciated. It is on Arbitrum, so you might have to play the bridge dance. I think that's the whole Gitcoin round this time is on Arbitrum. But yeah, no, it's been, I think like if money is not the thing that you can donate, but you can donate like your time and experience, there is also on the ETH is Money. I'll say this: shoot a tweet over to at the Ether Guild or a Warpcast message cast over to at Ether Guild, and we can set you up with a volunteer NFT. You can also find them through the ETH is Money website. There's a couple donation tiers for minting NFTs, but you can also you'll see like from the same what do you call it, minter, there's an NFT called Ether Guild Volunteer, and that allows anyone to just join the Discord and help out in whatever way. We could use developer help, we could use non-developer community help, social media. I'm reaching out to people that want to write some guest blog posts. Logri, I've reached out to you. I really appreciate your opinion on this topic. Yeah, I mean, I think there is a lot of work that we can do to help make this pitch digestible. And yeah, like everything is super appreciated.
I think if we're gonna attack it, as you said, so multifaceted, I think that rather than say just ETH is money, we're gonna have to have a whole set of article on those multi-pronged things, right? So go out, have some conversations, and take the feedback, the criticism or the questions for those other threads that people tend to pull on, and create an article that focuses just on that, right? One of those prongs at a time, in order to build a whole, because it has to kind of like gel and coalesce in your brain. It's not something that is just like a single thought. It's a whole framework. It's kind of an ideology, right? Built on some really good principles of, ethics and justice and economics and free trade. And like there's a whole, what Bankless say, if you adopt crypto platforms, you adopt crypto ideologies or something, right? There's some phrase they have that's close to that. And that's basically what I trust the rabbit hole will do to you. If I can get you just on chain and using it and spark curiosity, I trust that the rabbit hole will eventually pill you on the ideologies that this technology was founded.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about it. We need to make this multifaceted and multi-pronged. That is one of the reasons why the Ether Guild is the organization. ETH is Money is the first initiative of it, but we want to continue to do initiatives like this. We want to make that multi-pronged pitch and just make it super digestible. And we want a single source of sort of like narrative building and education on the blog side that'll help bring people down that rabbit hole. Appreciate you guys. JT, appreciate the donation. Thank you very much, Logri. Amazing chatting.
Well, thanks so much, Everdred. Everdred from the Ether Guild. And then ethismoney.xyz. Make sure you give him a follow on the old X and wherever you find his name, even over on Warpcast too, right? So thanks so much for spending some time with us today. Any parting words before you go? Uh-oh, you're muted.
Oops, sorry, I was muted. Warpcast is just at Ether Guild. X is at the Ether Guild. My personal Twitter profile is its_Everdred. But no, I mean, this was amazing, guys. I appreciate you taking the time to chat.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad we agree that Super Metroid is the best game of all time. So.
It's a great game. I'm not gonna fight you on that. I will fight you on the best, but that's all good. It's time for another day. See you guys.
All right, brother. Be good. Cheers. Everdred, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for showing up and hanging out with us today. We're getting ready to switch on over to the Doots Weekly here. Yeah, let's go. I'm going to take off this overlay, that overlay. Let's go to this, X out the zoom, put on that. I think we're good. Almost. Yeah, it's a little sloppy, I guess. Much better. Okay, so I'm going to shut off Zoom on my side. Yeah, man, Everdred, hope to see you again at the next barbecue. Looks like we got quite a few people watching on Twitter, X or whatever they call that these days. I'm also streaming on LinkedIn as well as Twitch and, of course, YouTube. Looks like we've had quite a few viewers stop through today, and I hope you've had a wonderful time. But now it is time for the Doots of the week. So if you want to follow along at dailydoots.com, we're going to get started now with our rich list. Starting at Aiden Kairos at 110, 696 at 111, Crypto Wild Currency at 118, Ethical Trade at 118, Hanny Abu at 121, Tricky Troll at 152, Benito 2030 at 168, Harog at 190, Logri the Bard climbing up at 193, and Superfizz sitting on the top of the heap at 220. Coming up this week, we got ZK Hack in Seoul. ETH Seoul is in Seoul, and Buildle Asia is also in Seoul. Dubai's got the Staking Summit. Farcon coming to New York City in May, as well as ETH Dam in Amsterdam, ETH Lisbon in Portugal, and ETH Bratislava in Slovakia. I guess that's what the SVK stands for. Hopefully I said that right. It's always fun to say those types of words from around the world. All right, here we go with the podcast for April. Let's see. Did I get it? That's the handing up. Let me go here. All right, very good. Coming up, we got on April 18th, Tobias Schreier from Grow the Pie. Rainbow Wallet coming May 9th. Ram Al-Walia has been rescheduled for May 30th. And I just booked... I just booked Chaz Schmidt from ClimateDAO in May, and I got Nixo coming on in May as well. So we got quite a few guests lined up. May's pretty much stacked up. I'm working into June. I am going to take a vacation in June. But anyway, very good. All right, here we go. Morning roundup for this week. Harfatum, who's this name? Chimes in Ethereum. Frank the Tank gives us a 1550 on the price, $10.09 at the dismal 0.192 on the ratio. Weekly Haiku, courtesy of JS Tears, wandering into the deepest blob data stew, Ethereum 2. How does he do it, JS Tears? How does he do it? Just incredible. All right, and our shit post of the week, because we always like to save the best for first. First, ETH Zen. Let's see. ETH Zen for this week is a Deuter number 17. Look at USDC lagging behind yet again. Every time the market pumps, it just stays the same. 0% on the 24-hour charts. What a joke. Time to dump all my USDC. It's a dead coin. Very well said. Very well said. Let's see. Harog covers Neither Mind, pushing the limits with their client. Yesterday, Camille Chidola, hopefully I said your name correctly, of the Neither Mind team did some benchmarks on their execution client in a small test net. They tried to push as many transactions through as possible to see what the practical limits of their execution client is. Neither Mind has been pushing the performance quite a bit over the last few years, and it is impressive how fast blocks are verified, even on slower machines. In their test, they built a small local testnet with 2 nodes and 128 validators. And then they started sending simple ETH transfer transactions. They managed to build and propagate blocks equivalent of 1.5 gigagas per second in their network. This is about 1,000 times faster than Ethereum mainnet is. A few hours later, the Ethan Dops team pushed it even above 1.9 gigagas per second. These are over 90,000 transactions per second. The ETH Panda Ops team even said that their tools to create even larger blocks are lacking, so they are not even able to push the Neithermind client to its limits at the moment. That is pretty impressive, to be honest. Obviously, this is a test environment, and we will not see numbers in the near future on mainnet. But the point being is that the EVM is not inherently limiting Ethereum's performance. It is rather some more fundamental physical limitation, bandwidth and SSD speed, and the adherence to core principles, like a decentralized base layer, which currently limit the speed. But it is great to know that in a few years, when we get a snarkified mainnet, the execution clients are ready to push the TPS values to unimaginable heights. And as an additional bonus, a block with that many transactions can easily burn several dozens of ETH and give several ETH rewards to the block proposer without even considering any of the MEV rewards. I will definitely take those. And there's links to all of the different X links for more information. Harog, thank you. Tricky Troll just realized how bad the echo chambers are and how badly we need to open source algorithms or decentralize social media. Tricky writes, man, comparing the For You feed on Twitter between my personal account I barely use with a project I'm working on feed, which is partially tailored to a coworker with different political beliefs, is effing scary. You'd have two completely different perceptions of the world if it was your only news source. Aside from Reddit's strong left bias, I've generally been pretty sheltered from this shit, as I intentionally avoid anything algorithmic. For media consumption, I use this, FreeTube. It's a private front end for YouTube. This means no recommended for you videos, just subscriptions and related videos. And then Reddit. Only use the all on libreddit private front end, and then Ethereum on this account. No personalized feed. And then I also use Ground News, Reuters, and BBC for news. Podcasts, but mostly crypto only, usually hardcore Ethereum like Daily, Gwei, Green Pill, and to a lesser degree, Bankless. So needless to say, suddenly getting either a feed of number one, people criticizing Trump's tariff policies, and then number two, a bunch of rage bait culture war distraction topics about immigrants and DEI, just depending on what account I'm logged into, is a completely novel and deeply concerning experience. Of course, I've known of this problem for a decade now, but today was the day that it really sunk in. If we don't open source algorithms and put limitations on them, free Western societies are absolutely effed. The average person is not smart enough to deal with this and remain well informed. You can see it in the decline of many, many people over the last decade. Joe Rogan is one example. Despite never being the smartest person in the room, he used to be quite nuanced, inquisitive, and left-leaning, but not holding very much his own beliefs combined from both sides of the aisle. Now, well, we all know what he's like now. You've got billionaires, domestic political entities, and foreign powers all pushing narratives hard with bots and astroturfing campaigns 24/7, none of which are aligned with the interests of the everyday person. We need decentralized social media, but how the hell can we compete not only with the network effects of existing platforms, but with the addictiveness of all these algorithms? You know, I'm starting to think having humans being the pets of a runaway artificial superintelligence overlord will actually be a good outcome at this rate, because we sure as shit can't govern ourselves responsibly with all of this self-destructive technology.
It's a scary realization when you see that the first time.
Yeah, I have two different.
We're never gonna reach consensus as a society because we are systemically being divided, right, by algorithms for money.
Yeah, it just came on. I think part of it too is like all this shit came on so fast, like so fast. There's the flip side to this, though, also, to take the other side of it. We used to only get our news from 3 or 4 sources nationwide, and that only lasted for just, really at the speed of light. It only has been that way for like 75 years. 100 years, of human existence, because the radio was like at the speed of light, and then you had syndicated radio, and then eventually, you had the reach of the newspapers, but it was still kind of slower. Now it's like, shit, man, if something goes down, everybody gets an alert on their phone if they want it to be that way, Yeah,
I mean, I think you'll have personal AI agents in the future that'll digest all the news, like a wide spectrum of it, and it'll know the type of things that you think are worth your attention, and it'll just give you a curated feed of it. But it'll be personalized, so it won't just be ideally you'll own the AI. I don't know that everyone will choose to go that route, but ideally you at least have the option to own your personal AI and retain all of your data and still have all the assistance benefits of it.
Yeah, no, Tricky Troll makes a good point. I have 2 different X accounts, and a lot of people complain that there's censorship on X or whatever. It's like, well, both of my accounts, they see 2 different versions of the world, the left and the right, but it is for what it's worth, very like channeled. It's very rare that you get a cross-pollination of decent content. For whatever reason, on one of the accounts, it just wants to push left-leaning stuff, and on the other account, it wants to push like right-leaning stuff. And I think Tricky Troll's noticing that. Whereas before Elon took it over, shit, man, it was all left. I mean, like a ton of it was left-leaning, and it was pretty clear. It was kind of like how Reddit is, because Reddit, if you leave it alone, everything on the front page, it's astonishing how left-leaning it is, unabated. You know, you got to curate your feed. You know,
come for the fuzzy cat pictures and eventually end up in our politics, and then quickly you go down the left rabbit hole. If
you look at our pics, which used to be pictures, it is almost, if you look at the front page of that, sort by, like the most, it's almost always unflattering pictures of Trump. And it's like, that's how Trump stays in the news, I guess. It's like, it's not really helping things. I don't know. It sucks. I think it's because it's come on so fast and the AI is now here. And it's like, that shit ain't waiting on nobody, man. It's been pretty amazing if you use it for what it's useful for, but man, I saw on a subreddit yesterday, it was like the running, you remember how they used to show click farms and it was physical phones on shelves, and literally like almost like you're back in a movie store again. They'd have 1,000 cell phones all plugged into their chargers, and there was a guy that was just going down and clicking, like on different accounts and doing the click farm thing. Now they're using like virtual phones on a computer that's just auto clicking. And so like you pay for all this engagement and stuff. And you know it when you see it. It's like we're in the middle of this weird bear markety kind of vibe time, in Ethereum, in crypto in general. But it's like somehow some obscure project gets 30,000 likes and 16,000 retweets, and nobody's ever heard of it before. It's like they're coming harder and faster than ever. You don't even need a person, it's just a robot sitting in the machine doing it now. Woo. It went fast. It's going fast. And narratives shift every second, All right. Very good. Greg Foley. That might be the most normal Reddit username in the history of Greg Foley, duder number 9. Started a new regular post looking for feedback. Oh, yes. I recognize this name. For those of you that don't get out of the daily, this is great. I started doing posts at the top level of our Ethereum summarizing Ethereum news. They're called Yesterday in Ethereum. I've now done this for a month, which is 15 yesterday posts. If you haven't seen it, here's a couple of the most upvoted ones. And he lists a couple of links. In this post, I'll ask you how I can improve it, tell you what I learned from doing it, tell you my objectives in starting it, and ask you if it's practical to keep it going, to justify continuing to spend time on it. I'll probably have to find a way to monetize it. How can I prove it? What are your likes? What are your dislikes and suggestions for improvement for Yesterday in Ethereum? Also, can I come up with a better name for it? The name came from this. I'm one of those people who always reads the daily the next day. So I knew I wouldn't be breaking any news in these posts, and I didn't want people to have the expectation of more than a summary of what's happened. And here's what I've learned from doing it. I was spending a lot of time following Ethereum anyway, so I thought I might as well write it up for other people that don't have the time to follow Ethereum closely. It couldn't take much longer than what I was doing already, right? I said I'd try it for a month anyway to see how it worked. It takes longer than expected, however, and then I started to spend more time reading about Ethereum. As I felt I'd better be more knowledgeable if I was going to explain things to other people. It was also harder than expected because Reddit shadow banned some posts because of banned links. Some of my posts don't go up until long after I'd first tried to publish them, as I figured out what was wrong thanks to Tricky Troll with help for that. I think I've learned how to minimize time wasted on banned links now. However, first test post things in a sub where you're a moderator. Just create your own sub if you don't have one. They're free. That way you can immediately see if a post was removed by Reddit. I also check posts from an alternate account. And then I do A/B testing until you find the problem link. You could probably find a different link to replace it with, for example, from X, which doesn't seem to have a ban problem. Suggestions from my learning about banned links. As a sub, we should collect a list of banned links and disseminate it. DAO forums, okay, I'm going to object to that. And the reason is that also helps spammers get around it. Sometimes, as a mod, you don't want to let anybody know what the banned links are unless they're being affected directly and they reach out to ModMail, because that requires a human to do that. Okay, for now. Anyway, DAO forums are one category, as well as other major Ethereum sites like eips.ethereum.org and .ens domain. Let's see. My objectives. Yesterday in Ethereum is what I wish existed, but doesn't. A way to follow Ethereum pretty closely. Not just news, but also useful information without spending much time on it. I wanted it to be a TLDR. Promote the daily at the top of our Ethereum, and never, because I never go in the daily. Okay. Evangelize Ethereum. I'm a true believer, and I find it easy to write positive things about it and educate the people about Ethereum. The last point overlaps a lot with evangelization. Many of you have a better technical understanding of Ethereum than me, but I think I'm pretty good at ELI5ing it, making it easy for people to understand the value. Do you think I can get monetized? This is a weird sentence. Do you think I can monetize this? I'd like to keep on doing this and preferably improve it. For example, with an email newsletter. I enjoy doing it, but it takes a lot of time. So I'd probably have to monetize it to justify continuing to spend time on it. Do you think it's practical to monetize it? Do you have any suggestions on how to do it? I remember that Evan Van Ness had a grant from the Ethereum Foundation for the Week in Ethereum News, though he lost it. Or I could ask if a major crypto publication wants me to do it for them, though I prefer independent. Yesterday in Ethereum may go on hiatus for a while or stop. Maybe I'll do one more this weekend if I have time, as I think about whether or not I can continue to doing it. I want to see if I respond. I thought maybe I responded in here. Evan Van Ness replied. Okay, he said inaccurate. Greg Foley says, can you explain? I'd like to learn from your experience. Happy to talk. DM me sometime today or tomorrow. I'll send you a Google Meets link. Well, good. You're going to talk to Evan. You're going to talk to Evan directly, which is the best way to get business done in that regard. Yeah, good luck with it. So we've got on, look at that. I don't even have my video going. What is this? This guy. Hey, anyway, so I would say that you would be better, like, one of these things about like doing this Doots podcast is it ended up becoming a team of people. It's not just me. I feel like I'm the frosting on a very large cake of other people's effort. Let me explain. So for those of you that are tuning in on Twitch and X and LinkedIn or wherever you are, so the Doots are actually like an upvoting mechanism that we use the Reddit upvote mechanism to kind of give a signal for the content on the our Ethereum daily that resonates with people. Then we have a guy named Tricky. There's one person that goes through and makes the daily list. And then we have another person, the A word, that goes in and makes the weekly list. I go through every week and I score. Every one of them gets a point. If they make it on the list on the day, they get 1 point for each time that they get mentioned on the day. That gets aggregated into a leaderboard that has close to 1,200 people now, that's astonishing. And then all of that gets wrapped up into a website, dailydoots.eth, where we use for our podcast here. And then like Logri the Bard joins in on this weekly show. This is all, podcasted out of our studio once a week on Fridays. And it's been pretty much volunteer work. We did get a little bit of grants money, but by and large, that money is kind of just sitting there. We're using it to pay for some hosting on Libsyn for disseminating distributing the podcast. We spend a little bit on Restream so we could do multi-streams across different websites. And then other than that, it's just myself and a couple other people that are trying to help get guests together. So we have somebody to interview and spread information. The point is we've done this now for over 2 years at almost zero income. It's not even I wouldn't even consider it a part-time job. It's just basically the money's there to kind of pay for hosting. So my point is to you, Greg Foley, if you like doing it, keep doing it. We're not a huge podcast. We don't have a big followership, but we just want to be organic to its core, centered on the Reddit community. If you're centered on the Reddit community, you enjoy curating those links and putting that information together, by all means, I think you should just do it and, seek some funding if you can. But, if you feel like it's a lot of work, it's probably not a lot of fun. And you need to find a balance. And the balance would be to find a team of people to help you curate some of this stuff so you're not swinging the axe by yourself. Because this is still fun for me, even though I give up my entire Friday. I get, making the thumbnail, making the links all happen and stuff post-show. It's a labor of love that I'm willing to do. But I would not ever want to do this if I had to do all the other things. Well, first of all, I can't build a website the way Hanny Abu can. Logri the Bard knows how to talk to people in a very technical way that I'm not able to. It goes on and on. Tricky Troll, what's he done? Like 1,100 days of grading the Doots every day with very few substitutions by the A-word or myself. It's incredible. It's just a labor of love, man. If you love Ethereum and you love trying to make content, then make content. Make sure you have fun. Find some help if you need it. All right. Chris Kind brings up recent U.S. regulatory development, and user No Industry 9653 digs deeper on this topic. Let's see. Chris Kind is a duder number 6. No Industry 9653 is a duder number 1. Getting on the weekly show with the reply here. I found this an interesting read. The TLDR, Chris Kind writes, Republican lawmakers potentially comprehensively wrecking regulation through backdoor by a new crypto law. I'd be interested in a discussion. Let's see what they say here on the Decrypt link. Crypto legislation could free the industry of SEC oversight, but critics warn it's a Pandora's box. Kind of agree. I don't want to get rid of the SEC entirely. Just make it more friendly. Okay, crypto-related bills barrel through Congress with the ambitious goal of passage by August. The potential implications of that legislation are only beginning to crystallize. One such bill, for instance, would seek to amend foundational U.S. securities laws to formally carve out most crypto assets from the definition of security. Okay, interesting. A bold move with little precedent in the history of Congress. Well, yeah, no shit. At least since such laws were first written on the outset of the New Deal in the 1930s, the Securities Clarity Act. Oh, Tom Emmer's putting this together. Okay. I feel like Tom Emmer is one of the good guys. So if they're going to be carving out the security aspect of it, I don't know. Let's see what it goes. But I'm going to get back to the comment that No Industry 9653, a source familiar with the bill's creation told Decrypt clause was added specifically to prevent the legislation from implicating any existing securities regulations pertaining to non-digital assets. That would mean Tesla and other publicly traded companies would not be able to circumvent existing securities by simply pivoting to crypto. Whoa. Freyer, though, doesn't buy the argument. He maintains that securities regulation has for decades relied on the holistic discretion of regulators to determine whether any given asset is a security or not, with the aid of tools like the Supreme Court's Howey test. Okay, and then Industry 9653 responds, overall, this seems like a necessary thing to do, given that the, quote, discretion, unquote, this person is touting is very obviously subject to being abused to punish things regulators happen to dislike for reasons unrelated to the law, as the previous administration had no qualms with doing. To play devil's advocate, though, this kind of brings to mind a part of a recent Bankless episode, timestamp included. Supposedly, the meta has shifted from protocols where the code is intended as the only real guarantee to a model where the main thing investors are hoping to get value from is actually the future efforts of the central team behind the project. The example was mentioned of Aave considering launching a new token, and holders being outraged by the idea because their expectation that new stuff would benefit their existing investment. To me, it seems like it would not be great if there are many tokens out there, which in practice, their value comes from an implied commitment to continue working on the project. But also, this is entirely on a quote, trust me, bro, basis, and no government-backed investor protections apply, because that's an obvious recipe for people getting ripped off. Not sure if that's really a risk with this legislation or not. Maybe this kind of thing would get classified as securities anyway. Personally, I'd like to see more crypto projects which are protocol only and don't function like a company. Let me see if I can play this.
What I came into the crypto industry as an investor versus like what I'm seeing now, because in 2017 during the ICO mania, and the ICO mania is as warped as any other investment cycle that we've seen in crypto, there was still nonetheless this relentless commitment towards, I'm only interested in this token if it is fully decentralized, fully permissionless, and I want the team to step away, like, you know, lock the door, throw away the key, and that's the protocol, and that's what I want to. And that was the investing. And now I think what you're saying is, I'm not interested in that at all. We can build protocol, but I want it to grow like a business. And I think maybe that is the new investment opportunity here is teams, these companies, these startups are building protocols, and that is their product. And they always kind of guide the protocol. And there's some...
Yeah, that's a good summary. Yeah, I think...
Well, I don't know if that went across the air. It wasn't coming across on Discord, at least. So
okay.
I don't know where you take your audio feed.
Yeah, it went out. I could see it bounce on OBS, so that went out to Twitter and YouTube just fine. And it's on the local recording, but yeah, it was. I guess the way that you would listen to that on Discord is to actually watch the stream. Oh, probably not, because I had those.
I've seen the video before, so I'm fine.
You got it. Oh, thanks for the heads up, man. Look at that. We got James Carnley. We got B Smokes down here. Good to see you guys. Treebeard, of course. Zombies here. Good to have you on Discord. Pilaya. I like that. E2353 Luca. Welcome in. Yeah, so I think what the streaming thing is, if you're actually watching the window that I'm streaming, it would have worked better if I was streaming the browser window itself rather than the screen. But anyway, I know that the audio carried out over there on the other channel, so we should be good there. All right, good deal. Good deal. Yeah, that's going to be interesting as soon as August. So keep your eye on this. Let's see what the name, FET21, the passage of which, the Securities Clarity Act. That's going to be the one. The Security Clarities Act. Interesting. Okay, good stuff. Next Level Fantasy shares some underappreciated Ethereum dApps. Next Level Fantasy is a Duder 14. Legit love learning about ETH infra, mechanism design, and the seeming inevitability of it becoming home of the world's settlement. But it is all about what dApps get built, in my opinion. Garden's conviction voting, and there's a link to it here. It's being used for one of the community rounds in Gitcoin round 23. I can't shill it hard enough as a customizable governance mechanism. Customizable. Let's open this up. Welcome to Gardens, where communities grow through collective decision making. So it looks like a different way of doing. There's Green Pill India and Green Pill. So this must be a lot of Green Pill in here. Tree gens are in here. Okay. All right. Public nouns. Interesting. Think Impact Miner by Atlantis is the most exciting app meant to incentivize real-world regeneration. Okay, good deal. So here's Atlantis, a co-op of creators, makers, doers, accelerating the adoption of regeneration, circularity, and sustainability. There we go. So you earn from creating impact, complete challenges, bounties, and get rewarded. The Impact Foundry, scale your impact project, landscapes, anchor protocol, and much more. Let's see. Stable coins plus embedding our values into money. The Glow dollar. I see Glow, G-L-O, and I think Glorilla the rapper. And Bread Chain are two takes on auto PGF. versus the alternative where yield of the T-bills and cash equivalents backing the stables go to Circle and Tether. Okay. Currency for solidarity. There's so many great ideas out there. NFA. I don't know what that acronym stands for. And I'd really like to appreciate the big brains opinions, but maybe $Earth from Solarpunk DAO Earth and Azos Finance and other apps in this tweet. It sucks that non-stable based treasuries are getting blasted, but builders are going to keep building. And finally, an edit, some more things that I'm following and seem really cool, but I eat crayons and I don't exactly know what's happening most of the time. Welcome to the club. Helios, Ethichub, Hypercert. Hypercert's is a thing. Hypercert's been around for a long time. Yeah. I've got it. I believe I've got my Hypercert, at least a few of them. All right, RevNets. Okay. There's all kinds of links there. If you guys want to go down some rabbit holes, by all means. Thank you, Next Level Fantasy, for this week's submission. Kartosis looks at which blockchain hosts all the growth and innovation and the people who spin ecosystems narratives. Kartosis is a duder number 2. BTC maxis are led by powerful and rich OGs that largely control the entire crypto narrative by leveraging media outlets and thought leader messaging. Read that link. You'll see how biased, vitriolic, and hostile that narrative has been and continues to be specifically towards ETH. This goes as far back to the days of the ETH launch in 2015. You'll see the bumper sticker FUD posted every day having origins going back years. So we're talking about conditions. Well, current market conditions are far beyond ETH's or any crypto's control. But as far as the crypto ecosystem, here are the facts. Every major blockchain innovation and development post-BTC launch has come from the ETH community. Not only is it the developer-centric blockchain, whose dev mindshare is miles deep and light years ahead of any other, it is also the ecosystem that gave birth to the following: smart contracts, DeFi lending, decentralized exchanges, proof of stake, stable coins, NFTs, roll-ups, etc. And you look at all the metrics for all of those. Ethereum consistently dominates in total value, locked in unique addresses and volume across every category, unless you believe BNB's numbers, of course. Looks like I got to do a DApp radar. There we go, DApp radar. Very good. Yeah, I'll show you all the different blockchains and where they do their activity the most. Look, blockchain tech means anything. If blockchain tech provides any value, there is only one ecosystem, community and coin, that is constantly innovated and delivered without making trilemma sacrifices. Ever heard of the trilemma? So yes, the actual conditions have been in place for many years. Very good, Kartosis. That's mega bullish. I like it. It's heavy-handed. It's a little bit ETH toxic. I'll take it. I'm in. I get it. I like it. Edgy. User Tricky Troll wants to see the next generation of community educators to step up these tough times. Tricky Troll writes, investing is never easy. You need to do your own research to be effective and reach your own conclusions, but often we need help doing that. People need to point you in the right direction. Share lessons learned. Share good sources of information and impart on others the values which built this ecosystem. In 2018 and 2019, I remember I learned a lot from the likes of Anthony Sassano and Eric Connor on the ETH Hub podcast and DC Investor in the ETH Trader discussion threads. Love those people. I even remember being unable to sleep at 3 a.m., choosing instead to watch videos of Sergey Nazarov thinking about Chainlink in a lecture theater with maybe a dozen people in it. Since then, it has been the likes of Superfizz and Harog and Logri the Bard. From all these people, I learned enough to start posting myself, sharing my feelings, my experiences, and hopefully educating others and allowing them to make better decisions. Why does this matter? Well, because without these people, I wouldn't have made it through the 2018 and the 2019 bear market. That's right. I'd have lost thousands of dollars and moved on, but I didn't. I stuck around. I identified that the sentiment and price did not match the fundamentals, and I bet on what I could see was a cheap valuation for a groundbreaking network. So while the tech and adoption fundamentals are better than ever, you now have an opportunity. 6 months ago, many of you were asking for cheap ETH. Now that it's here, people don't want it. People are calling ETH dead. Well, that is despite exponential L2 growth and Ethereum adoption suggesting otherwise. And you can go to ethereumadoption.com and look at all of these metrics. Look at all of these places where people are meeting all around the world to learn. So do yourselves a favor. Find something to focus on in Ethereum. Build something. Join a community. Help build this one. Take a peek at the industry-leading research coming from Ethereum researchers, or just assess the fundamentals from an investment perspective for yourself. Then come back here and write about what you have found. Chances are you're not going to come back long-term bearish. If you do, come back here and convince me. Dare you. Just like in 2018, just like in 2018, another year or two of bear doldrums didn't matter. Back then, we had the builders and we had the tech. The same is still true today. In the long run, nothing else should matter. So please, we need more educators around here. All this reactionary panic helps nobody. I understand the frustration, but if you came to crypto to make riches overnight, or if you trade on emotions, you're coming with the strategies which most people who got wrecked in this ecosystem came with. Take this as a call to action. I'd love to see the next generation of DC investor and Logri the Bards come out of these tough times. Excellent, Tricky Troll. Thank you. All right. The user, the Swingman, shares a wide range of collected thoughts. Swingman's been around for quite a while. Swingman, Deuter 11. Some thoughts of late. Reading the daily lately has been a source of anxiety more than a place of comfort. We need to change that. Tricky Troll is onto something with the FUD-busting AI tool. Oh, yeah. But Bankless gets its criticism, rightfully so, but this episode was worth the watch. I found it helpful to hear from Etherealize, Vivek Raman, and Danny Ryan. Danny brings a calmness and level-headed approach to problem solving, and Vivek, I think, has it in him to go toe-to-toe with Ethereum adversaries in the business world. They seem to have a plan in place to onboard real-world companies, institutions, not just educate, as well as try to wrangle U.S. policy to favor a decentralized system such as Ethereum. I'd recommend giving that episode a watch, especially during these darker days. Yeah, and we also interviewed Vivek a few weeks ago. It was very enjoyable. A lot of stuff is happening in the world. Is completely out of mine or your hands. The more I learn to let go of fear, the better off I am. Lately, I've been giving off more a negative sentiment to my friends, family, and loved ones, which I think they all understand the reasons why. It's a general consensus in my tribe. I'm not just talking about Ethereum here. I'm talking about general worry for the world right now. However, I'm working on it. Detaching from investments helps. Earning an income helps. Working on health helps. Jumping back into hobbies has been key. And being kind to other really helps. Ethereum has been my main ride or die for a long time. And if you want, you can surround yourself in an echo chamber across social media and maybe not even know it. To that effect, I do my very best to read the FUD and counter-arguments against Ethereum, to see what else is out there in this space, to see if anything truly rivals what Ethereum is today and what its future aims to be. The answers are what ultimately keep me here, holding ETH. These are some real concerns, and the path to alleviate them is long, but more than possible and likely doable. Not great for the short term, and unfortunately, quote, short term is what jives the most within a risk asset for most investors. Ethereum is clearly becoming something bigger than what most of us can imagine, but it requires long-term mindset when it comes to ETH, the asset. Speaking honestly and strictly from an investment performative perspective, I wish I had a more peripheral vision to some other ideology. Almost all, if not all, of which I don't align with. within this space. I should have known that as simple, mostly useless, and inevitably problematic BTC is. It would be the asset that would make sense for the simple TradFi folks to get behind and work best as an ETF. Most of the TradFi folks still don't know what it is, but someone told them digital gold, so they bought it. Jesus. For as long as I've been around, I should have seen the general mass appeal to Solana and realized the players running that game. Understanding that Sol is just a new shiny toy that tries to mimic Ethereum, but in a substantially centralized way, ran like a corporation and serves as a broken casino. Of course it would make money. It was the ETH train that everyone missed. I actually bought BNB at ICO and let go of it some time ago from the CZ debacles and the SEC drama. But I should have realized Binance was the first massive international exchange that created its, quote, smart chain to again be a centralized copy-paste of Ethereum, yet still has a viable business behind it, which props up its BNB price. XRP and the rest are still mind-bogglers, so I won't comment on that. Almost all of them, or most of these other projects in this space are a hot pile of trash that I wouldn't touch because, in my opinion, they didn't or couldn't stand up to what Ethereum is now and will become again. This is just me. So I guess I've made some missteps in my crypto journey from an investment perspective, but one thing I don't think I got wrong is my ideology. That's right. And in my honest opinion, Ethereum still stands tall. As they say, don't get shaken out. I'm going to try to be like user ETH Zen and keep adding to the stack because I believe we will see ETH rise again. Yeah, it's tough to sit there when you're watching all the other stuff do its thing. I'm not jealous, man. I'm principled. I'm not going to hold Bitcoin. It's demonstrably destructive to the environment. Like, orders of magnitude more destructive than it's hard to imagine. Like, they're not recycling all those ASICs unless there's just going to be people sitting in a burn pit somewhere trying to strip the copper off of the wires and melt the gold out of it. Like, it's just such trash. It creates so much waste, e-waste, and then the stupid narrative about, but it helps improve like green energy incentives. Wrecked. Absolutely get wrecked. I don't buy it. And so what? I suffered. I don't care. I'm not holding that trash. XRP, what does it even do? What do people do with it? So, Solana ran its course. It's just all the value extraction. We're still the number 2 asset.
I have never met a person who has a Ripple wallet set up and has used it. Like, I've met plenty of people who hold XRP, right? I have never met a single person who used the technology for anything.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the downturn in the ETH price. Well, put your ETH to work, do something, you won't feel as bad. It's a long-term thing for me anyway. I want to see it. I want to see what this is like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, rubbing up on 50 years old. I may not be here for 30 years, I want to see where this goes. It's exciting. It's still just as exciting to me as, getting ETH pilled once upon a time, and just, it's fucking rad. I don't know. I mean, I'm just kind of happy that all of crypto has arrived as an asset class that's recognized. Like, we got to see the highest offices of the land. You remember, I remember like, okay, we're going places because now they're talking about us in Congress in a negative way, It's like, ooh, that's where it begins. If you start...
then they fight you part.
Yep.
First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you.
Yep. Yeah. You keep telling people they can't do something or shouldn't do something, and that the government's here to protect you and all this other crap, especially in the United States. There's just people that get a chip on their shoulder and they're like, yeah, we'll figure out a different way to do it. We could buy some politicians, play the game, I guess. So I guess I can thank Bitcoin for that, but it's mostly like the Bitcoiners that had a lot of the wealth accumulated over the years. Spearheaded part of that, but it's like, yeah, the banks are, I feel like Bitcoin is like the Trojan horse. Ethereum's going to eat everything once they release it out in the wild when the banking rail starts to adopt it, because they see it. Anybody that works in accounting or banking or certified financial planners, I've known a few of them. They're just like, yeah, this is where it's at, but we can't do anything for our clients. But now that's starting to change, and portfolios are going to change. And I think Eat the Asset is an index. I think it can still get that. I don't know. We'll see. I just want to see what happens. Okay, good. We're almost done here. Yeah, Swingman, good stuff. I'm glad you shared that. Okay, user 2353. Oh, sitting in the crowd right now, huh? Ears are burning. ETH 2353, Duder number 35, OG on the rich list. Share some good news from the service that they've been building. Oh, we got a builder sitting in the audience. Even better. Good deal. In the midst of all this bad news, I got a tiny bit of good news today that I wanted to share. I guarantee this will not make you nearly as happy as it has made me, but maybe it can still take your mind off things for a minute. The staking as a service company I founded some time ago is the best performing node operator on Ethereum over the last month. Holy schmoly. Well, there we go. Serenita. Good done. Let's give you a retweet from the Mavericks handle. Good job, dude. Or lady. I'm saying Serenita, and I want to say Senorita. Very good. Let's see. Best performing node operator. Loger, your hot mic. Best performing node operator on Ethereum over the last month. In the whole world, competing, probably the universe. I'm going to say the best one in the universe. Competing with well-funded giants with dedicated DevOps and research teams like Coinbase, Kiln, and P2P, and so many others. This feels really amazing. A small staking shop outperforming all of them. And this was not achieved by only using the best performing clients either. No compromises were made. Quite the opposite. We developed and open sourced our own validator client, Vero, from scratch that is able to use multiple clients at the same time, reducing risk and meaningfully contributing to client diversity on Ethereum. We run 5 different CL and 3 different execution clients implementations on mainnet. So 5 consensus and 3 Anyway, that was the good news I got. In other news, I'm looking forward to the Pector upgrade early next month. Today, I initiated a discussion with the CL client teams to see how they are handling configuration files and fallback default values. Since that caused such a huge mess on the Haleshki testnet on the execution layer side. All EL client teams are already looking at improving this, but CL clients may have needed this friendly little nudge from me to also take a careful look at how they handle these things. Failing early is preferable to using the wrong config values. I hope the market conditions get better soon. Have a good one, Lions. Well, good deal, man. Nice. Excellent. Congratulations on that big win for your company. Very good. We should get you so there it is. Serenito is a top performing Ethereum node operator for the month of March with a rated average validator effectiveness rating of 98.8%. They did not miss any of their block proposals. One of the highest consensus layer rewards per validator. Amazing work with a salute emoji. So this company rated They rank different node operators running at least 100 validators and who are active for the whole month. The source of the data is our validator performance endpoints. You can see them here. Okay. Thank you, team rated. Excellent. Well, that's got to feel good, doesn't it? That feels good, man. Congrats. Numerous Ruin 4947 covers even more institutional adoption. Well, that's a link to the, let's see, I got to go. Duder number 1. We got a Duder number 1 making the weekly podcast. Great job. All right. The Bank of New York Mellon Corporation, BNY, will broadcast select fund accounting data to the Ethereum network. I think I actually shared this somewhere. This is pretty cool. The Bank of New York Mellon, BNY, a global financial services company, today announced the expansion of its digital asset platform with the launch of its Digital Asset Data Insights product, designed to securely and effectively deliver both on and off-chain data across blockchain networks. The launch underscores BNY's ambition to serve an expanded, fundamental role in the life cycle of tokenized assets. With the BNY data on-chain capability, BNY will broadcast select fund accounting data to the Ethereum network. Let me read this again. With the BNY data on-chain capability, BNY will broadcast select fund accounting data to the Ethereum network, enabling further utility of public blocks. Using smart contract technology, BNY will automate data consumption so that investors and on-chain participants may further capitalize on distributed ledger technology, also known as DLT. Quote, accessing transparent data is critical to our clients' success in today's markets, unquote, said Carolyn Butler, global head of digital assets at BNY. That's fancy. Our platform support of digital asset data insights underscores our commitment to servicing the end-to-end asset lifecycle via distributed ledger technology while maintaining data integrity from a trusted source, unquote. BlackRock will be the first client to leverage this product. Ooh, here he comes. Big one. The big one's coming. BNY will broadcast fund accounting data for the BlackRock USD Institutional Digital Liquidity Fund, BIDL, or the fund. Its tokenized short-term U.S. Treasury fund. BNY currently acts as a fund administrator and custodian of the funds. BNY's enablement of off-chain data insights to public blockchains is an unprecedented event and a significant milestone for the industry, said Robert Michnick, head of digital assets at BlackRock. By enhancing data transparency and accessibility for our investors, BNY has set a new standard for digital asset innovation, unquote. Okay. BNY's digital asset platform is a single integrated platform for the safekeeping, servicing, and management of digital assets. The platform leverages blockchain and tokenization technologies to create new opportunities, unlock asset utility, broaden distribution channels, manage risk, and inform investment decisions as the market evolves. Oh, and they're saying that nobody's building on ETH. That's just it's all speculation. No, that's a real thing. That's a real thing. There you go. Numerous Ruin 4947. Thank you for that banger of a post. That rounds out our week for this week. Let's go back over to our overview here. We got a list of events coming up, and we've got quite a few guests coming on the podcast in the weeks to come. Tobias Schreier from Grow the Pie next week. We got a representative from Rainbow Wallet on May 9th. Ram Aluwalia from Lumina Wealth. He had to punt again. We've moved him to May 30th. And then we're going to have Chaz Schmidt from ClimateDAO in June. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff down the pipe. I really appreciate everybody hanging out with us today. Thanks to Logri the Bard for hanging out and being our technical interviewer. All right, stick around after the live stream because we continue the party in the hotel lobby on Discord for a bonus hour of popcorn. It's a fun place to let loose when the parents aren't watching on YouTube. Hi, Mom. On behalf of Ethfinance Daily General Discussion and the EV Mavericks DAO, my name is JT. Cheers and big hugs from Kansas City.